Good day, C3 parents, and this is your second installment of how to live with the cabin fever during lockdown, or parenting with cabin fever during lockdown. I'm your host, Karien Pitout, and welcome to this discussion. Today we're going to look at how to manage the clashes that happens during this time period with our kids in sibling rivalry. Now, in general, sibling rivalry, when we talk about that, we look at how we build relationships with our children. So the first thing that we need to understand is that even though a lot of us decided to have a second child because we didn't want the first one to grow up alone and we want them to have a lifelong friend, it is not the second child's responsibility or oath to be the best friend of the oldest. And you as a parent, the only way that you can create that kind of bond is to allow them to develop their relationship in their own way and within their own confines of how they define that relationship. And the more you interfere, the more the chance is that they won't build a strong relationship, because you are a third party to that relationship. So let's dive into cabin fever and sibling rivalry. When kids have had enough of each other, the mean comes out. Whether we like it or not, whether we want to manage it or not, whether we agree with it or not, it does come out. They get overwhelmed, they get frustrated, they want to see a change in pace, and they start disrespecting each other's boundaries. So you as the parent then have the beautiful opportunity to actually help them manage and coach them through these difficulties. This is a beautiful opportunity the next 21 days to, or at least during this lockdown, to learn to take a step and guide your children through the conflict. You are not a referee. You are not the judge, jury, and the decision maker. You are not the one that's going to decide how this problem gets resolved. You are there to guide them. The first step to guiding them is to allow them and acknowledge, to allow them to express their emotions and to acknowledge their emotions. When kiddo says, I hate my brother or I hate my sister, the reason they are saying it is because at that point in time they are feeling extremely discontent with the situation, and there's a lot of underlying emotional baggage that comes with that, especially when we've got cabin fever, because then everything is an issue. Remember, the house is starting to feel smaller. It feels like someone's in your space the whole time. You can't get a break. It becomes very, very difficult to manage that. So when they start saying things like, I hate my brother or I hate my sister, it is how they're feeling at that particular moment. They haven't stopped loving their sibling. They are just expressing at this very point in time, to put it eloquently, I love my brother or sister, but I really dislike them at this particular point in time. And it is okay for them to dislike someone at this particular point in time, even though their vocabulary has a lot to be expanded on. So one of the things that you do while you are helping them expressing their emotions is allowing those emotions to stand. So you as a parent will not be dismissing it. It doesn't help you dismiss it, because then they feel unheard and it completely defeats the purpose. So when they express extreme negative feelings, you can concur and say, at this point in time, you feeling X, Y, Z. But explain to me, why are you feeling X, Y, Z? Or don't explain it to me, explain it to your sibling. And let them have a conversation where you mediate the conversation in the form of a coach. So you don't put words in their mouths, and you help them express what they feel. And then slowly but surely, after they've expressed how they felt, you allow them to acknowledge how the other person felt, and then you allow them to find a solution that works for both of them. Now, here's the catch. A lot of times we as parents don't feel that the negotiation that happened seemed fair. We don't feel it's fair. But we don't know the dynamics or the relationship between the two kids that well. Really, we don't, even though we're living with them. The same way that should you have someone that another adult living with you in the home, and if you and your spouse have a bickering or have an issue, you and your partner, and that person decides to tell you this is how you're going to solve it, you two are being ridiculous, and just flings a bunch of solutions to you, and now you have to abide by it. And where parents have a lot of power to force kids to abide by it, imagine this third party in your relationship has the power to force you to abide by their decisions, what they decide is healthy for you and your partner. Things will not end well. The same with our kids. It doesn't help that we enforce what we think is fair on them. They know that in this particular point in time, what is important for them and what are they willing to negotiate with, what are they willing to let go. It might seem lopsided, but tomorrow or maybe a few minutes down the line, another negotiation will take place, and the dynamics might have shifted, because for them priority shifts as well. So it doesn't help that we interfere and trying to tell them how to solve the situation, or at least give them enforced solutions. If the negotiation breaks down, if they are getting very heated to a point where you can see that they are starting to use abusive or hurtful words, or one or two of the members in this squabble is reaching a point where they will use physical violence or physical activity to solve the problem, that is when you step in and stop them. But you don't stop them by giving them a solution like, okay, fine, now you do this and you do this and that's over and done with. No, you step in and say, okay guys, you know what? We are taking a break from this negotiation. You both need to work through your emotions, get calm enough so that you can negotiate further. I'm giving you guys a 5-minute break, and then we can bring things back to the table and let's just give each other a chance to breathe. Then you deal with the meltdown or the tears that is during that, and you comfort them and you help them and you help them calm down, and then you bring them back to the negotiation table between the two of them. A lot of times after they've taken a break and they've calmed down, that fixation on whatever they felt was extremely important when the fight started has either shifted, or they have a clearer idea of what they are willing to let go or need to hold on to, and they can restart the negotiations. Very often you will see that the one kid would go, oh, you know what, is not important anymore, and let it go. Or other times they will say, but this is still important, and they will negotiate and they'll work it out. Just to give anecdotal situation here at our home, if our kids have a disagreement about whose turn is it to play with what, they do rock, paper, scissors. And if they're really in a negotiating mood and we want to find common ground mood, they will start negotiating who does what sign, and then they do the rock, paper, scissors, and the agreed upon signs get shown, and whoever wins. It's so basically in their negotiations and in their decision there, they've already decided what is important and who gets first try. To me, every now and again, it feels like, oh my word, this is so unfair. But it's really not unfair in their minds, because they are busy working it through. Yes, some of us have a very soft-hearted child, and you might be concerned that the soft-hearted child will be overruled by the more stubborn one, or the older one, or the more physically imposing one. It is not always the case. And the more often the soft-hearted one actually gets exposed to negotiations, get to work through that, they actually learn how to stand up truly for what they believe and hold on for what they're holding on to, so that they can do better in negotiations in future. And you will see that the more stubborn one or the older one sometimes will actually step back and make sacrifices during the negotiation to give the soft-hearted one an opportunity to win a negotiation or get more out of a negotiation than previously. This is teaching our children life skills of how to handle problematic situations in future as well, with their spouses, with adult relationships, and even in the office when they need to do teamwork. So when cabin fever hits in and the squabbles gets more and the frustration gets more, make use of your energy influx situations. For your introvert, the taking time away. For your extrovert, actually you as a parent stepping in and giving them some feedback and some energy back in so that they can recharge. Sorry. So the whole idea of managing the sibling squabbles and the rivalry is to allow our kids to fight. It drives us insane, and this is where you as the parent have to try to stay calm. If the bickering and the shouting and the screaming and the crying really gets too much for you, take a deep breath. You then take your 5-minute break before you step into the fray. A lot of times, if we allow our kids to actually fight and scream and don't stop them, they reach a point where they go like, but this is not working, let's find a different way. And they find their way to a negotiation and to a peaceful negotiation where they actually find the solution together. So the more we interfere, the more we get involved, the bigger the chance of them to not find a solution that is workable. So remember, their feelings are important and it's valid. The feelings are never set in stone. When you feel overwhelmed, you take a step back. When they get overwhelmed, help them to redirect and take a step back, but never tell them how to solve the problem that they are facing. You can give them hints and direction, especially if they're still a little young, but in the end of the day, it is their relationship with each other. And if you learn how to nurture it now during the lockdown, it will really serve them well in their future and in the aim and the hope that they will be each other's best friends in the long run. If you like this, subscribe, hit that like button, ring that bell so you get notifications. You can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. Have an amazing day.